Hi, this is Robert Maciejko, co-founder of the INSEAD AI community. Today, we're joined by Michael Olenick, who is a 6-time tech startup founder and, until recently, INSEAD researcher. Michael has developed an AI app called Vstrat, together with colleagues, including INSEAD professors Peter Zemsky and Jörg Nissing, that helps you create strategies using classic strategy frameworks, an interactive interface, and AI. The app has proven successful in INSEAD courses, and Michael and the team are planning a further rollout. So why is this interesting? Well, if you're working in business on strategies, then an app that uses the best of AI, business frameworks that you're familiar with, and is interactive, is something that can be worth checking out. Besides that, though, Vstrat is an excellent example of a vertical AI app, something that doesn't try to solve everything, but uses the best of AI in a structured way to solve and help with specific needs.
Welcome, everybody. What we have is a demo of an AI vertical app I've created. It's me working with a few others at INSEAD, especially Peter Zemsky and Jörg Nissing. We took these apps we've been making, which is adding interactivity to traditional business tools. What happens if we pour in generative AI along with these traditional business tools and interactivity? Let's check it out and see what happens. And what happened was we found that the sum of the parts, the blending of all three of them, was a lot better than just any single one. This is Vstrat. And let's first look at value chains. So, I don't know, business, school, transformation. The first screen is going to look pretty standard, which is what we call a winnowing screen. Have you selected the right thing? First basic screen will show products and services narrowed down, right? To see if you type, a lot of people are typing things like credit or even consumer credit. Well, there's about 50 different subcategories of that. Then some leading companies. The idea here is you just say, okay, am I on the right track? If you are, you would advance off to a value chain. Now here, this is all of a sudden beginning to look pretty different than what you're going to see in any LLM output. We have the suppliers to a product. We have the thing, the product or service. We have the distribution channels. And then we have the outputs, influencers and complements and end users. How does it work? If we click on one of, say, the input channels, the LLM is going to think a little bit and say, okay, here are some options. So what goes into a business school transformation program? Well, you would have curriculum design consultants, maybe education tech providers, and professional development trainers, probably case studies. I wrote a lot of case studies when I was at INSEAD. And what maybe emerging ones? We probably would have VR. It's another INSEAD business. And as we build these, it's going to modify our value chain up here. Who actually provides these? The LLM will think and come up. Okay, really? Harvard? INSEAD should be number one? Come on. But obviously HBS and Wharton and Stanford, and kind of obvious answers. But as we type them, it's going to go down there on our chain. How are they actually delivered to people? Online learning, partnerships, direct corporate programs? Sure. Also consultants and emerging maybe VR educational experiences. And all that goes there. Who are our end users? And it's going to give some ideas, recent grads, mid-career professionals, entrepreneurs. I won't go through all of them, but the idea is you would build out your value chain. Let's use the customer journey map. This one I have already typed it in. The LM will think, and in this case, it will build us a customer journey map, right? If you're looking for this, what are your stages of customer acquisition going to be? So it's going to tell us you're going to discover, research, compare, enroll, engage, and then complete. We can modify any of those, clicking on these. I won't do it yet, but it would add one. And for each stage, what are the goals of our buyer, the touch points, the pain points, what activities, opportunities, and emotions. If you try this, and we have in all the LLMs, you get kind of the classic, or for that matter, the value chain, a wall of text. But what's one of the differences in this versus a wall of text, which is what we call heuristics? These tools themselves they're shortcuts. And shortcuts are, I think most people here are probably INSEAD alum. Those heuristics or shortcuts are what people use to make business decisions. It's what we use for consulting. It's what we use for thinking. So anytime in history, we've been able to go and write long form text out, but that only goes so far. Instead, what we have these shortcuts that we've come up with. This, getting back, we have our goals, our touch points. So let's say, okay, researching, here's our pain points, complex data integration, limited customization options. We said, that's an interesting pain point. And click on one, and it's going to come up with a few opportunities, flexible research modules. And if we say, okay, that's an interesting opportunity, and we click on one, it's going to drill down into more opportunities. I don't know, allow seamless integration, develop modular content. And if we click on one of those, there we go. It's going to go a little bit deeper and give us an idea. So how would you use this? I mean, I've kind of shown you how technically you would use it, but what's the purpose of the tool? The purpose of the tool is to figure out where those pain points are, where the opportunities are, what emotions are there, what touch points are there. Why do we do it? Because these opportunities are how we enable differentiation, right? It's where our businesses are going to compete and be allowed to compete or be able to compete. Maybe where we don't see something. Can you do this on your own? You can, and people do. One of the people I work closely with is Jörg Niesing. Jörg's a professor of marketing at INSEAD, and Jörg was a partner at Profit Consulting, which is a marketing consulting firm. And Jörg said, yeah, we would spend $200,000-$300,000 to go and make a customer journey map, except for the kind of most advanced maps at the best consumer marketers, Procter and Gamble's of the world, who spends not a few $100,000, but millions of dollars making one. These are pretty comparable. It's really not all that different than what we would get. You could enter a custom pain point in any of these. So for example, compare overwhelming information, confusing. And it's going to open up more opportunities, customized comparisons. Not bad, actually. I wouldn't have thought about it myself. One of the things that's different about this versus the regular LLMs, ChatGPTs, and the Anthropics of the world are that they are made not to really answer questions, but to make you think. Jens Meyer, another INSEAD faculty member, said, Michael, this isn't AI, it's IA, intelligence augmented, which was a really good insight, right? It's not to go do it for you, it's to go help you do it.
The tool is obviously a very interesting way to create strategies. But I guess the bigger point for the group today is you took an AI system and you added structure around it to deliver value in ways that might be difficult on its own. This is an example of one of vertical apps that people can imagine in their industry, in their problem set. It'd be interesting to hear how you actually created it as well, because I think a lot of people are going to wonder how can they recreate this in their companies.
What you're seeing here is it blends the interactivity with customized technology, with the heuristics, with the tools that we're working on, right? Being able to blend that alone, only interactivity was helpful. The idea was to allow people to think instead of draw. They were using Excel, was okay. So what this is doing is not all that different than what a person was doing. For example, looking at the customer journey map that's on screen. First, we ask the AI, we drop in these three things into it and blend it. Okay, think about this. And then we say, what are the stages that are coming up? This is okay. The stages for a business school digital transformation program are to discover one, research, compare, enroll, engage, and complete. And then what would you do in that? And here's what you would do in each of these. And how would you interact with those? And for all of these, each of these squares is a different query, a different piece of information we're sending to the LLM. So there's not one giant prompt coming up. That's why when I said the name of this, we said it's beyond prompt engineering. This isn't a single prompt. I've had a few people say, show me your prompts, Michael. And I say, you really want to see what's doing back there? And they say, yes. And we show, and it's what it is. It's dozens and dozens and sometimes hundreds of queries back and forth to the LLM, some sequentially, many concurrently at the same time. And sometimes both, right? Depends on what's doing. Each of these columns could be, and they say, okay, that doesn't look like any kind of prompt we've ever actually built. So the idea is to think about first, what value do you want? What's the output you want? What are we creating? I'm assuming almost everybody, if not everybody on this call is involved in business somehow. And you're probably looking for some kind of output, something to share, something to think about, something to work through. And then going backwards, you could type something into one of the LLMs and try to research that, but you're probably going to end up with some long piece of text, and you could query this part and query that part and ask more about it. And that's really good. I'm not putting that down. I use it all the time myself. LLMs are fantastic for writing and for programming especially. But when it comes to business tools, like I said, we switch to the more interactive, the heuristics that we see on screen here for a reason. It's a combination of attention span and time. But if you can't summarize things relatively quickly, and we're seeing almost the opposite in the LLMs, especially ChatGPT. It reminds me of a child when they first learn to talk and they won't stop talking and they talk and they talk and they talk, and then where they say it, it's like, stop it, just get to the point, right? And that's what we want, is a more focused output, a more focused outcome. That's what these vertical applications actually do. You could probably bring in a 20-page ChatGPT output as a presentation to an executive to pitch a new idea, but I don't think your pitch would last past page 1 or 2. It's not what they want to see. They want to see PowerPoints, and they want to see business plans, value curves, and customer journey maps, right? Value chains.
From Cesare, we have the question, how many frameworks like customer journey map do you have?
So right now we have 8 published, and we probably have another 6 or 7 that are in process. Our hope is to make best-in-class versions.
Cesare asks, how does user research factor in? Are we completely replacing it? What's the data input into these?
Right now, the answer is we're relying a lot on the LLMs. As we advance this, we're going to look at 2 things. One is what we call RAG, which is taking information and inputting it into the system, custom information. The other is taking raw data and combining it. So for example, not in this version, but I have a prototype version of the customer journey map that blends itself with US Census information. So for example, you might say, I'm actually looking for people who are, say, 30 to 40 years old with a certain income level who are more interested in business school transformation online programs. And there you would both get the data from the census about how many of those people are and where they live, rather than a more generalized blast. Right now, you'd have to combine that on your own, which isn't horrible. It's better than doing it all entirely on your own. But that's really where we think all of this is going, is this blend.
Desiree has another question. How can we get into your beta?
Oh, just ask. So right now we have the beta open. You could just sign up for it. Right now, especially with INSEAD alums and students, we'd love to both have you working on it, testing it, and giving us feedback on it. And we take your feedback really seriously. You're not like your regular anonymous users. The value for us, especially as we're building these things out, is just, I can't overstate.
So it's vstrat.ai, as it says on the screen. So just go there and sign up, right?
Just go there and sign up. And the tools you'll see, there will be a My Tools menu that opens at top. We have our other suites of tools that aren't open yet. If you really want to see them, I would say then just write to me, mfolnick@gmail or at vstrat.ai. I have it, the last slide, you'll see it.
Fabio asks, can you share the overall structure of the prompts just to understand?
Yeah, the answer is yes and no. The reason is because they don't look anything like normal prompts. It would probably be more of a deep dive into the technology. They're not secret, they're just very different. So for example, with this, like I was talking about, we would take the three of these in the context of what you're looking for, a customer journey map, and come up with stages. And for each stage, one by one, we would go through these. And for each of these, it would depend on what came out contextually from other areas. And then it would be maybe after research and compare, you might have another one, budget. And it's going to send that back block by block to the LLM to come up with a new column of information. Personas and value chains, all of them are doing the same thing. I think the future are these vertical applications, these very specific uses of these tools. Just briefly, we went through what's the point of this? It's very different than a wall of text. It's the same LLMs. We have it hooked to a few different things, but most of this is coming from the open AI models. So you can get this from ChatGPT if you type enough. I think it's a better wall, right? It's just a better way of presenting information, which is how it came about in the first place. Our vertical is obvious. Salesforce was obvious. And if we look at Salesforce, which is a vertical app basically on top of Oracle, on top of MySQL, the potential for focused applications, and that's what we're seeing right now, is just enormous. Think about, what do our customers need? What do our buyers want?
Can this tool draw a more detailed value chain of different industries?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Already right now, it draws pretty good value chains. But one of the things Peter and I were just talking about, future plans to try to draw both internal value chains and external value chains. We've tested it with a lot of industries, and those tests perform well. This is already used in INSEAD classes, and it's really popular, actually. Thousands of people signed up, to the point where MBAs actually turned around and were signing up, created a whole extra elective class because they liked it so much. We passed 400 signups so far. It's been a week. So it's super popular. And why is it popular? For exactly the reason that was just asked. It does really a pretty good job of specific industries. We want to go there. And we also want to go vertical on our verticals. Like right now, it's a generic value chain, but I think eventually making a pharma value chain, a healthcare value chain.
Using the LLM to become superhuman in strategy creation as a vertical.
Yeah.
Can this tool control for hallucination and ensure all data is accurately referenced? Before you answer, my thought on that would be that you're not going to write your 5-year annual plan printing this out. It's not going to give you very exact details of everything. However, if you want to create ideas on what you're missing, blind spots you might have, things you haven't thought about, this can be amazing.
Is exactly accurate. We're at a 90, 95%, maybe even 97, 98% level of confidence. What we get back is usually right. Some things that look like a hallucination turn out not to be.
There's a question here from Cesare. What's your main target beyond CEOs?
The main target groups, so would be consultants and businesses. And what we're hoping to do is to build this is partly from you, Robert, is we're talking a network of people who would learn how to use these systems. One thing we're learning from our early tests is this: people who just wander in with no background use it a very little bit or almost not at all. Whereas people who have a demo or have some background in this have much deeper understanding, much deeper appreciation. And it's happened now a few times. We've had, including Robert, 4 consultants specifically say, this is great for teaching, not just in classrooms, but in our seminars.
So it's a great tool for strategy ideation, but you need the human in the loop to actually get the full value out of it. Question here from Paul: how should we think about competitive differentiation given the low barriers to using LLMs? Could be argued that the example shared is a feature of a broader suite or a set of utilities that McKinsey, Bain, BCG could build internally.
They can and they will, and my guess is that they have. Can BCG or McKinsey or any of them use these systems? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do they have the programmers? Yes, they do. Will they? It's a real challenge because those $500,000 consulting sessions could drop down. I'm not going to say they'll be gone, but sure, 50,000, an order of magnitude drop. So will they? I don't know. Whereas for us, working with the people who teach the consultants, right? And we think that our tools are good enough, or will be really soon, for people to be able to use this on their own.
There's a question also from Tim. It's a question about RAG, I guess. This is great for outside-in idea generation, but can it be hooked up to corporate data? When does it become a personal strategy companion for in-house senior managers?
Yep, totally. It can. The only reason we haven't done more ragification is people are really worried about security. We'll probably use like an open source model and put this on a separate server, but they were very worried about putting their strategic plans into this along with proprietary data. That's something that's going to have to be overcome.
Cesare says, I have it run on top of Salesforce. I can help.
Great. Yeah, good. We love it. Heuristics came along, and there's a reason that presentations, including this one, are not a wall of text. Heuristics are really important. That's how people think. It's our shortcuts. And that's that. Robert, thank you for your time. Thank you for hosting this and pulling it together.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.